My little record button. All right. This is 6:14, and we are kicking off this Coffee with the Broker. We have our wonderful Scott Armstrong with Consumer Title and Escrow Services. Woo woo! Here to drop the knowledge bomb on us today. I'm going to share my screen. He's put together a little something for us. So here we go. Here we go. All right. What do we have here, Mr. Scott? What is
okay? So I had the wonderful pleasure of having Jeremy send me a bunch of market research that we analyzed here at Consumer Title. And we decided that it would be great to figure out what are junk fees. This is the topic today, is what are junk fees that you're looking for on your settlement statements? So we took these fine companies here on the left-hand side, and we actually then went to name them the type of transaction, whether it was they were all purchases, but was it cash or was it financed? Then we gave the sales price, and then we gave the loan premiums. So these things are all regulated, as we know, by the state of Florida, RESPA rules, and it also by the Florida statutes, which rates are calculated as follows, like the $575 per thousand up to $100,000, $5 per thousand, $100,000 to $1 million, and $250 per thousand over $1 million. And these are all based on the state fees. And so those don't change between any title company unless they want to violate the law. So deed doc stamps are also 70 cents per thousand. That's another statutory requirement. So really what we're going to get into here is the closing fee, the abstract fee, some of the other fees that are all included within the actual settlement fee. We used to put it all out.
Scott, I'm going to jump in and ask a question here real quick. I just want to, because a lot of that sounded like Greek to me anyway, you know, but basically what you're saying is we're not going to talk about the standard fees that are regulated by RESPA.
Correct.
Because those are all the same across the board.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you, sir.
There's no flexibility in any of those fees.
Okay.
This flexibility is if you have a prior owner's policy, and that's a reissue credit. If it's for the first 3 years of the purchase, there'll be a reissue credit.
Okay, so someone like maybe a flipper could do like a re-owner's policy. Is that what it's called? Re-owner's policy?
A reissue.
Reissue policy.
Credit. And that credit then is applied towards the new policy, which is a substantial savings. And once again, it's all based on the sales price.
Okay.
However, there is case law out there, and it's called a Butler credit. And what it was is it was a Butler versus a title company. And basically, Butler went to the courts and said, I would like to have the profit margins of the title company. And of course, RESPA came in and said, no, well, Butler won. So now what we have here is if you as an agent want to have a reduction in price for the title company, you have to specifically ask for a Butler credit. So back when there was a time when people actually didn't have enough money to bring to closing, believe it or not. And there weren't all these wonderful wars that are out there now. So what they did was people would come to us, and like one realtor would give a credit of $100, and another realtor would give another $100, and the title company would give $100, and we'd all provide it to the buyer so they could come to closing with more money than they had, which actually made the deal close. So remember, our goal is to always get the deal closed no matter what it takes. And so that's one thing that I would recommend that you would ask for in your transaction if you're is a Butler credit if you need to have additional funds.
So, okay, so that's only in the case where if you need additional funds, like you're a little short on closing, you would go to the title company and say, hey, I need to request a Butler credit. Is that how it would work?
That's correct.
Okay. And what are some, other than like being short, let's just say you're cheap. Could you request a Butler credit if you're just cheap?
Well, you could, but it takes money to buy a house. And so what we're doing is we're down to the wire just to help you, So remember that it's not just the title company that's going to give you money. The realtor is going to have to cough up some funds too. The mortgage broker is going to have to cough up some funds. So it's not just the title company. It's a cumulative of everybody working as a team. So if you ask for it, you should be expected to give up some of your commission.
Okay.
Fair?
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. I was just curious. Like my wife and I are in the process of buying a home right now, and I'm a little worried because we have to use the builder's title company, and I'm a little concerned with what you're going to talk about today, like what possible hidden fees we're going to have in there. And I'm for one personally happy that you're putting this on. But anyway, off topic. Please continue. I'm sorry.
Hey,
Well,
Scott, can I ask you to go back and just list those ones that are regulated by RESPA before we move on to the ones that are negotiable?
Sure. It's the owner's title insurance policy. And what that is, it's $5.75 per thousand up to 100,000.
And that's that spot in the contract where if the buyer is choosing title, they pay for their own they pay for their own title insurance policy. Is that correct, Scott? And if the seller is choosing title, then the seller pays for the title insurance policy for the buyer.
Correct. If it's the owner's policy itself.
Correct.
So that won't change either. Whoever is chosen to pay on the contract will pay these fees no matter what. And it's all based on the sales price. So the next tier would be $5 per thousand for 100,000 up to $1 million. And then it would be $2.50 per thousand for anything over $1 million. So for the first 100,000, you're paying $575, and then however much more the sales price is up to $1 million, you'd pay the additional $5 per thousand for anything over the 100,000. So it's a tiered, but it all adds up to the total price of the policy. That answer your question, Jude?
Yep. And then you said deduct stamps is 70 cents per thousand. Those are the only two things that are regulated by RESPA?
These are by statutes. RESPA regulates a lot more than just these fees, but it's also, I'm going to say that it's 70 cents per 100, not per thousand.
Okay.
Doc stamps for the deed itself.
And that's Florida.
That's Florida, correct.
Okay, so those are the only two you were talking about earlier, and now we're moving on to what can be junk fees.
Right, but I want to step aside here, and I want to go back to Jeremy's question regarding a new purchase where you have to use the builder's title company. That's all contractual. Those fees are not standard within the industry. And so those fees are basically if you want to buy their home, this is what you have to pay.
Ooh, that's even more scary. Thanks, Scott.
Just straight up the way it is. So then I'm going to go ahead and move on to these other columns that you can all see here where you see that we're at the loan premiums, and those are all based on, of course, the premiums based on the sales price and the loan price itself or value. So how we regulate it here is when it comes to a promulgated rate, and this is where it gets confusing, the simultaneous policy, if you have an owner's policy and you have a mortgagee policy, the base premium for the lender's title insurance policy is $325. So that's basically what you're paying for a mortgagee policy alongside of an owner's policy. So the two would go together. But then, of course, the lender is going to require possibly a survey. They're going to require an 8.1, a 9 endorsement, different endorsements to the policy to protect their interest. And so that's where all the fees for the mortgagee policy goes up. So once again, those are all promulgated per the Florida statutes, which is 627.7825. Any questions on that so far?
Those are all lender fees, right, Scott? That's
correct. Yes.
So on a cash deal, you wouldn't see a lot of those fees.
You would see no lender fees, correct. Okay, so moving on. So we're going to look at the search fees. So you see where the search fee is $135 for all real estate title. Then you come to consumer or ARC title group, which is $250. Then you come to consumer title, which is $250.
Oh.
And that's on cash, and then it's financed. When ours for financed is $450. So then we go to the Florida Title Services is $600, and the OS National LLC is $600. The Resort Escrow Services is $695, and the Southern Title Holding Company is $300. So how it used to be, we used to break out all of our fees. In other words, our courier fees, which would be like FedEx. If there was a wire fee, we'd break those out separately. And so that's where your junk fees really come in. But now all the junk fees in your settlement fee. And so if you go to the next column where you see that like the search fee is $135, and then you go to the settlement fee for the buyer side, which is $715, that's pretty high. And that's the highest one here is the all real estate. So I don't know specifically because the RESPA came back and said, that you need to add just one lump fee. And so we don't know what those junk fees are anymore, but you can guess that it could be a notary fee, someone to do a signing. It could be the FedEx fees. It could be wire fees, anything that the title company is trying to pass through the cost, but they pad that also, and they don't want you to see that. So those are the fees that you basically will not know what they are. This is the settlement fees. So I'm going to go down to the next one where they're having the ARC group. So their search fee is $100, and then their settlement fee is $250. So they're right in line with most of the industry. So we're going to go down then to consumer title when our search fee is $275. Now, why is this? It's because that's our actual cost. The $100 fee for the one above it, which is ARC title, they buy that product from their underwriter. And they only go back as far as the last deed and come forward. Consumer Titles does a 30-year search, and we have our own in-house examiners, and remember, our own in-house attorneys that do this work for us. So I find that our product's a little better and we don't have title claims, or we traditionally don't have any issues because we go back to 30 years and we clean up a lot of the defaults in the chain of title. Remember, title insurance is mitigated loss, where if you buy an insurance policy for an automobile, that's after the accident happens. We do it before it occurs.
Okay. So Scott, real quick, just because, I always think about like the newer agent, right? Why is your process of title search better than the person charging, $100? It's going back to the last deed. What would be the concern there?
Think about if you just go back to the last owner, what if that was only 2 or 3 years? What if it was only 5 years? You don't know what's behind there. So traditionally, when we go back behind there, we do the 30-year search. We find a lot of things like open permits. We find liens that are not taken care of. Those type of things that do show up, which actually cause a lien against the property when they come due.
And who could end up being responsible for those liens, those open permits, if let's say they purchase title insurance from XYZ Title, and then when they go to sell it, they're using consumer title, and then you guys do the 30-year search?
Well, what happens is traditionally the current owner would be responsible. So we have an entire department that actually does curative work. So the first thing we would do is we would ask that the current owner for their owner's policy. Then we would file a title claim on their behalf. And then that we would let their underwriter, the current owner, take care of resolving the problem. A lot of times before we get to that, we try to resolve it ourselves. If it's an open permit, we'll call up the municipality and say, how do we fix this? Or what can we do to fix this? And a lot of times it's just locating the person who actually put on the new roof and say, can you sign this release of lien? And they sign it and it goes a recording, and then it costs the current owner the $17.50 to record it. If it comes to the point where we can't cure it, we get there's a thing called an estridi. The estridi basically says, okay, one underwriter to the next underwriter, we're going to insure the property over that issue. That doesn't correct the issue, but it allows the property to close. And then in the background behind this, then that's when the underwriter cleans up the mess, but it allows the closing to go forward.
Okay. So it looks like according to this, the search fee, if it's costing you 275, it looks like most of these other title companies aren't going the 30 years back.
That's my understanding. And like I think in the case of like Resort Escrow Services, they are charged 125, and that's a total pass-through cost. Because if I have the underwriter do my search for me, they charge me 125.
Okay.
So they buy the product from their underwriter, whoever that is.
Mm-hmm.
Attorney's Title Insurance Fund, because remember we're mostly attorneys here, and so we want to make sure that it's done correctly.
Okay.
So within our settlement fee, where we are charging, let's just say here, the $375. Well, in that $375, we charge, that's part of our notary fee. So if you do a closing with us on the buyer side and on the seller side, that fee is already in our settlement closing fee. We don't charge additional fees. But if you go down and you look at other companies, they actually charge a notary fee. For instance, this OS National LLC, they're charging you $175 for the notary fee. So that's basically additional. So now from them, they're at $575 for the total fees.
Okay.
With me so far?
Yeah, but would that be like if you guys got to send out a mobile notary, is there a separate charge for that, or is that just part of the service?
Ours, that's included in our settlement fee.
Oh, okay.
What's including in our settlement fee is the notary fees, the wire fees, and the FedEx. It's pass-through cost. There's no, we don't pad it. We just basically, that's our cost to do business.
Mm-hmm.
You with me?
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
So if you see here, you go over to the wire fees. There's what the actual wire fees are, the $25. Some people charge $50. Then the lien search amount over here on the right-hand side, you see where that is? Okay, so those are additional fees that you are charged if you request them. So traditionally, like a municipal lien search is $90. A regular lien search fee is $65, and a permit search fee is $25. And then that's basically the cost. But if there's anything to resolve that, that is passed through to the buyer or the seller, wherever the party who agrees on the contract to pay. Mm-hmm. And usually what those are fees that go to the municipality. So remember, things aren't free for the government. They always charge something to make sure that they get paid for their work. Some of the lien search vendors that are Skyline Lien Search, PropLogic, Exacta, Elite Property Research, and Southern Title Holdings companies. So if you see those normally an invoice that you could always ask for to see the real true amount if you were questioning any of the fees on the settlement statement itself.
Okay. Because
the government came down pretty hard on title companies, there's not a whole lot of junk fees anymore that you're allowed to charge. And especially you're not supposed to be padding things. We're all supposed to be equal. And so that's why customer service is so important, for title companies, and making sure the deal gets closed is because the fees are so structured. There's not a room for error, and there's not a lot of room for it to pad anything.
Okay. It definitely makes me feel a lot better. I'm always asked by my clients to look at the title, the closing disclosure, and, make sure there's no, this and that. And I always give the disclaimer like, hey, I'm not an attorney here, but I'll look it over and see if something stands out to me, and typically there's really nothing that I, point out unless, commission's wrong or, something just seems astronomical. I'll say, why don't you question your lender about this and see if they can do any better on this, the loan origination fee or something like that. So, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of, I guess if we went line by line and added some things up, like maybe Resort Escrow Services looks like they're probably one of the highest paid title companies, right?
The top one.
Oh, the top one?
Yes, settlement fee $715.
Mm. Well, but Resort Escrow Services is almost 700, and then they have 450 or 500 for the seller settlement, and then $350 for the notary, and then $50 for the buyer, and $225 for the lien search amount. I mean,
yeah, it does. They may have based that on the sales price too. They may have a certain price point that they escalate the cost pertaining to the amount of the premium or the amount of the sales price.
Okay. Anything else you want to like add, Scott, or caution us about, or things that you've seen maybe throughout the years that, you know, other title companies have done that we should be aware of or look out for?
The past history is pretty much, you know, moot at this point, and that's because we're so regulated now that all someone has to do is make one phone call about the fees, and then the company is audited. And a lot of times once you're audited by the state, you're bye-bye, you're gone. So everyone's in fear of their company to keep them up front. It could be that, I mean, people would pad these fees and walk away with a tremendous amount of money. You know, they would add $50 here, $100 there, $20 here, and it's not, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, I remember that back in the day, Scott. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, especially down like in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area.
Yeah.
Title companies were getting away with murder.
Whoever has a conversation going on in the background, can you please mute?
Not really. Can you hold on 1 minute? Hold on. See what it's called.
There we go. Okay. All right.
Hey, we have Shane on today. Shane, you want to add anything to this? So Shane is one of our lenders. When you want to introduce yourself, Shane?
Hey guys, Shane, Southern Trust Mortgage. Thanks, Freddie. Scott, I really appreciate the education on the title side of all this. It's very important, you know, and also your lenders fees kind of break down in a very similar way, where you can see clients. That's what I'd like to add is you know, you got to be careful what kind of lenders you guys are working with and what kind of fees they're charging the process to get to closing as well. But Scott, no, thanks for the education on all these different fees that go into that title cost.
Welcome. Thank you.
And then I just want to add, if the buyer typically the buyer is asking for some credits for closing, just make sure that it doesn't pass the lender's threshold, right? So some lenders have a threshold on how much they can receive for credits for closing.
It gets, and yeah, Freddie, to your point, and it gets very specific as to how that can work. The percentages, depending on the loan product, how much credit can be passed through. But yes.
It's like the programs, right? So in certain programs, you have to bring a certain amount of money to closing. So if you can't come up with that, then we can't help you get there. You have to come your own.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also my understanding that you're not buying a house, you're not allowed to buy gas because that'll be a ding on your credit. Sorry, had to throw that in there.
Oh boy, these gas jokes are good.
I'm going to add that to my don't do it list. Don't fill up your RV.
Yeah.
While we're in
the day before closing, don't fill up your RV with gas.
They'll throw your DTI off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you explain this exorbitant amount that you took out of for Walmart gas station? I was buying gas. Can you prove it? Do you have a receipt? What else? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, any questions from anybody? Now's the time.
Jude had a question. Can we share? Scott, would you mind if we share the spreadsheet with folks?
Well, since it was proprietary that I was given, I don't think it would be advisable, just because it might be a violation of someone's privacy, if that makes any sense, because we know who the title company is. But if you could put 2 and 2 together on what the transaction was, I mean, that may upset somebody.
Yeah, so we can share it with you right now, but if we give it to you, we might have to kill you.
Yeah. And remember, this is completely being recorded for you to watch over and over again, so you could just recreate it if you really wanted to.
And we're we're in no way trying to banter or bash any of these other closing title companies or anything like that. We're just trying to pass the knowledge on from our partner, Consumer Title.
Thank you so much. So is there any other questions that I can answer for you? Crickets. Okay.
Some people are trying to unmute Scott. Hold on. They might be having a conversation in the background right now. Anyone? Bueller?
Yeah, you can. I mean, listen. You have Scott from Consumer Title. You have Shane on here. You can ask questions about anything. We don't have to stay on topic now. I mean, if you guys are guaranteed with this topic, this is Coffee with the Broker. Go ahead and shoot something out. You have something transactional you want to know. You got Sean on there as well. You got Shane. You got Scott from Consumer Title. So you got everybody in the biz here.
Challenges that they want to share.
Maybe you're having something with a certain transaction, something with a lender, something with a title company that you don't know, or the buyer wants to know, or something. Now's the time. Coffee with the Broker. Got a deal falling apart.
Whoops, somebody said something.
I was just thinking, what question should we be asking?
Should we be asking? We need a whole few days for that. Well, Brenda, you have a recent victory. You want to share?
Oh, so Jeremy, thank you. You helped me. I had a cash.
What are you talking about?
I had a cash buyer, and so I was talking to the listing agent just to see if he had gotten any, offers on this particular house that we were looking at. And he shared later that he had an offer coming in. So I said, Jeremy, we got to get this offer. What should I do? So Jeremy gave me some feedback on how to do it using an escalation clause, going above asking just a little bit. It was only $5 more, I think it was, or five.
I thought it was 1,000.
1,000 more, maybe.
Oh.
So the offer was accepted, and so we are excited. And thank you, Jeremy. Anything else you want to add to that?
Well, I mean, just ultimately it was the buyer's decision, right? I said, hey, this is what I would do if I were you, and I just simply said, go hard a little bit above the purchase price. What did you do for earnest money? It was a cash buyer, so they had the cash to.
We put 20,000 down.
20,000, okay. And then we did an escalation clause, or you did an escalation clause up to 201. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And
it was increments of $2,000, right?
And we did a quick close too, but because of the HOA, it's probably going to need a little bit longer time to close.
Yeah, I didn't realize this is what problem I had was the HOA. It was a co-op, which I was familiar with it, but for some reason it wasn't disclosed to us. But anyway, the buyer had to be approved at the complex as a member before they got, sold the house. So they wanted 30 days, and we had already said 23. So I was like, Jeremy, what should I do? So he said, just, wait, maybe they'll get through the process and maybe you can close on time. Otherwise, right the day before closing, you can put in an addendum to extend the closing. So it was a lot. I'm still going through a lot too, because the seller did not have any disclosures in there. So I was like, what should I do with that? I still don't know, but I did ask for the disclosures. So.
And it was like a rental property, right?
Yeah, it was a leasehold kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. So, and in that case, for the most part, they don't really disclose, but or they'll just give you disclosure that's, I don't know anything. Yes, Scott.
So on a co-op, we it's a simple way to think of it. You're buying into a corporation, and your share of that corporation is the property. That's the easiest way to think about what a co-op is. They're very they're very tough to buy into, and a lot of times the approvals you don't get approved to buy into them. Sometimes it's financial, or sometimes the corporation just doesn't like you. I mean, I've seen that happen in my career, but of course now that's real illegal to do, so you can't discriminate. But when
we've got one down here in Venice is that way, Scott. I mean, nobody's going to get in there unless you are a relative.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the way, yeah, it's just the way it is. So
there's a bunch of them down in Miami. And actually a lot of lenders won't even touch co-ops. They will not finance co-ops, only specific. Back in the day, I know TD used to do it, or Desjardins from Canada or whatever. We're one of the few lenders, or Deutsche, another one. But yeah, co-ops are a little bit different. And Scott mentioned it, you're buying into the actual corporation, and your share is everything, the property itself.
Okay. So Shane, I got a question for you. Do you do reverse mortgages?
We don't. We stopped doing them about 3 years ago, but we are looking at getting back into those products. What did you have? You had something in mind?
Well, I've just been. I've had a couple of people inquire to me. Do I know of anybody that can do a reverse mortgage for a purchase? And I used to, but I don't have any contacts at this time. Also,
I got a guy, Scott. I can send you his contact info.
Okay, thank you. If you do that, I'd really appreciate it. So,
Scott, I got a guy down here in Venice too that does them.
Okay, send them all to me if you can. It's scott.armstrong@consumertea.com. And the reason I say this is because what I foresee happening is I think the reverse mortgages are going to start up again, just due to the fact that there's so much equity in these homes now, and people that maybe didn't plan for the current future will now have an opportunity to have some retirement funds. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and that's why we're opening that book up again, and hopefully we'll have that up and running here soon.
Shane, if you do, can you contact me right away? Because I've got some stuff I wanted to talk to you about.
Because we just, in fact, it's interesting that you mentioned it. I mean, this was a meeting that we had last week talking about bringing this all back in, and I got a follow up this afternoon with the powers that be. I want to see where they're at with this product. So yeah, thank you. I will let you know where we're at for sure.
Thank you, Shane.
I don't want to reiterate and just make sure y'all know, like the Brenda's situation that she was involved in. You know, in my opinion, she did exactly the right thing, right? Freddie and I have been doing this for umpteen years. We currently list and sell in this market right now today. So please feel free, if it's your first offer, it's a situation that you're uncomfortable with, that you haven't run into before, give myself or Freddie a call, get some advice. You know, that's what we're here for.
I want to add my 2 cents to that, Jeremy.
Yeah,
so you were talking about, Brenda was saying something about, well, you suggested to go above asking price and stuff like that. I want to add a little bit more there. Don't ever put a number in your buyer's mouth, okay? Ever. You can say go above asking price. You can say go below asking price. You can say go a little bit above asking price, but don't ever say a number, okay? Let the number come from the buyer or seller, okay?
Yeah, and I did. I said, you know, he would always ask me, what would you suggest, Brenda? And I would say, you know, I would.
And they're going to ask you 6 different ways, Brenda. What would you suggest? So what do you, if you were the buyer, what would you do? They're going to ask you that same question 6 different ways. Just keep going back to, hey, look, put your best foot forward. Do you really like the house? You know, look at your budget and put your best foot forward.
Yes, and that's what I did. I said, it's all your decision. I really did.
Every so often I hear listing agents. I had a scenario last week with one of our listings. The listing agent said, well, if you come in at 224, I'll get to the sale. I'm like, are you really kidding me? You told them that? And I had the buyer's broker call me and saying, you know, your agent's out there throwing numbers out and suggesting what they should offer and things. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to pick up the phone and have a call. So don't ever do that on either side of the party. If you're on the listing side, you don't ever throw a number. You need to come up to this. No. Put your best foot forward. Have your buyer put your best foot forward. It's not always the number. Also, it's the terms. You know, that $20,000 escrow you put down, you got a lot of skin in the game. That shows that the buyer is very serious, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So just be careful on how you approach your buyer and or seller. Don't ever give them numbers. Let the numbers come from them. I obviously encourage them to do the best offer that they can without suggesting any numbers, because it will always come back to you. Well, you told me to put that number in.
I
And
usually
I lost
give
it because of that, or I overpaid because of that.
Yeah, I usually give them the comps.
Right.
You know, I do a CMA and show it to them.
Correct.
And so they make that decision.
And those comps are in a range usually, right? You say, well, between this and this.
Right. My question is, I guess I'm learning a lot through that whole process, is because what I should have done is got the information from the co-op to see what is required of a resident first, instead of, you know, going, just making an offer like a normal residential contract. But
I mean, Brenda, you still have time. Did you receive the docs from the seller yet? Did the buyer receive the docs to review? Condo docs?
Yes, I did.
Bylaws,
yeah, I
CCRs,
immediately.
all that stuff?
Yes, he's already, you know, gone through most of the process, did the interview. I sent him everything from the, you know, the administrator.
That's the due diligence period, that and your inspection period.
Yes, and we're doing an inspection today.
And you have 3 days after you receive the docs, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So
yeah, so we have everything in, and yeah, we're good to go. One question I had was the wire fraud. Is that signed by both the buyer and the seller?
okay, so that is a requirement that HomeSmart put into place corporate-wise nationwide, because there was a lot of wire fraud going on. So we decided to make that part of our files. As the broker, I only require it, or we only require it in Florida for the buyer side.
Okay.
If you get one for both, great. But the seller's usually not doing any wires; they're receiving wires, right?
Right.
So, and this only discloses that that the buyer needs to verify who he's sending the wire to. That's all it says. So it's just saying, hey, heads up, there's a lot of this stuff going on. Make sure you verify the information you're getting from whoever about wires.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's all it says. And we made it a requirement on the buyer side transaction for HomeSmart. Okay.
Gotcha. One other question. This is more private. I guess it's basically toward my transaction. Hopefully it's okay to ask it, but it
Brenda,
was a referral.
If you have a question, I'm sure it's the same question for some of the other agents on here as well. So go ahead. Okay.
So it was a referral from a Boston agent who is with HomeSmart. Okay. So should I put in I had them, we signed the referral form. Do I put that in RSA, or how does that work?
You have to put the referral in there so that when we send out the disbursement authorizations for the commissions, it shows that they're getting paid as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to put the referral in. You have to add the referral page in there. We will sort it for you and separate it for you, but you have to put the numbers in on the commission page as well. So when you're entering the file, make sure you edit the commission page. Okay, I just took it or sent it to transaction coordination. Okay. Or whatever. Yeah, you can let the TC know. Send everything to the TC and tell her, hey, there's a referral on this for 25%. Here it is. Okay, gotcha. And if you're doing out broker, in other words, brokerages, if you're doing a referral with a brokerage that's not HomeSmart or PHP, Parma House, we are going to need a W-9 from that brokerage if we're paying, not if we're receiving. If we are paying anyone, we're going to need a W-9 and a copy of the broker's license as well. So just a heads up on that. If it's an in-house, all I need is a referral agreement. It's HomeSmart to HomeSmart. We're cool with that. We don't need W-9s and all that. But whenever we're paying someone, we're going to need a W-9 for that brokerage. Okay. Okay, so a heads up on that. And these are not title stuff required. This is HomeSmart policies and procedures. Okay, I also charged the buyer the $350 fee. Who should I had to pay that, the seller or the buyer, or it doesn't matter? I'm sorry, say that again. The $350 fee for the transaction fee. Your transaction and your risk reduction fee, yes.
Yeah, I charge the buyer for that. Is that okay?
Okay, did you just close it on the contract?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. That's all you need. When you put the note, when you put the file in your Real Smart agent account, just notate the file. Buyer is paying $350 transaction fee. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then what happens is, Brenda, remember, any fees that you charge are considered commissions.
Okay.
So that would be added to your gross commissions.
All right.
So for those of you taking a referral from OpCity that you have to pay them a referral fee, remember that that additional fee is also part of commissions. So add that to your figures. So OpCity is going to actually hit you for that 30 or 35% on the gross commission, which includes the transaction fee. Okay, so heads up on that.
Because you guys, you can charge whatever you want. You could charge them the $350. You could charge them a transaction fee of $1,000 if you want, and if you can get it, right? Your fees are different from what you're charging the client, right? Like, you know, some people get it twisted in their head. They're like, well, this should just go towards this because this is being, I'm calling this a transaction fee, even though, like Freddie said, it's additional commission.
Correct. I mean, you're going to see a lot of brokerages do that, and they call it different names: admin fee, recording fee, brokerage fee, transaction fee. I don't care what you call it. At the end of the day, it's additional commissions. That's the only way we can get paid is commissions, right? So it's additional commissions.
Here you go. There's a question in the box from CJ. Scott, do you provide pencil searches? And so pencil searches are basically owners and encumbrance reports. And we do those if people ask for them. We normally just do a regular search. But if you go on the backside just before closing, we do a pencil search, or we call that a gap search. And we do that prior to the closing, prior to recording. So that's called an update to make sure that nothing fell in between the cracks, because we insure over that. So the answer to your question is yes, we do. We just call them by different names.
And Scott just actually did one for me, for my father-in-law's house in Miami.
So excellent.
Because I'm about to list that property, and I wanted to know what's going on before I actually list it. So I asked Scott to do a little search for me.
We're more than happy to help anyone to try to make their lives easier and to get the transaction closed.
Hey Scott, I got a question. You know, I work with a few investors and whatnot, and sometimes it's not always easy to find if the roof's been done or it's something like that. What kind of search could you guys do that would have a little bit more meat to it, and how much would something like that cost?
So we do what they call a permit search fee, and that's an additional $25 because that's what we're charged by the municipality to go into their official records and use their database. Okay, so if we needed to do a municipality search through you guys, we just contact, you know, orders. Or no? Okay, so that's a municipal lien and permit search, and they charge $90 for those, because the one was the permit search. That's another different database. The municipal lien search is water permit search together. That's a $90 fee. Okay. So if we just wanted to do a permit search, it would just be 25? That's correct, $25. Okay, very cool.
And that should show you, I mean, permits, I mean, you need a permit for roof, you need a permit for an AC, you need a permit for all that stuff. So that will let you know what's been done to the house, at least legally.
Yeah.
Right, Scott?
Yeah. So a lot of times when we pull these permit searches, it opens a can of worms. Like they'll have pulled a permit search for an AC or a Havoc unit, but they forgot to pull the permit to build on the addition to the house. So now what happens? The homeowner has to go and apply for a permit, have their home inspected, pay for the inspection, and if there's anything that comes up, they have to have that corrected. Yes. It's really important that you use a title company that's going to help you get through this and ensure you that there's not going to be these issues going forward, because now think about it. The realtor that sold them this house is going to get a phone call. Hey, what happened here? How did this happen? And they're going to call the title company and say, how did this happen? So it opens up a big can of worms or Pandora's box for the homeowners, which just doesn't make it for a pleasant closing.
It actually just happened with one of our agents. She was buying it for herself, Scott, the property. And then they found out that there was an addition done to the house and the permit was still open. The listing agent actually listed the wrong square footage on the listing. Didn't disclose anything about permits or anything like that. Deal fell apart. It was like a big to do. So yeah, I definitely advise.
I'll tell you, we're working on with an agent in Nokomis right now. She's got both sides of the sale and the buyer. But when we did the title search for them, we found out there was a $10,000 open issue. And so we are going to wait until next month, and then that issue will have expired. And so we, by law, we can now close around that because it's been expired. So we just actually checked this yesterday, and the company that filed the lien against the property has not refiled it. So what happens is you file the lien in 7 years, if you don't refile it, it basically becomes moot, but you still have to wait another 3 years, 10 years for it to actually expire. So that's one of our services that Consumer Titles offers is that in the back chain, we're going to clean it up some way or another. So the buyer and the seller both had to wait almost 8 months, but instead of paying $10,000, they just decided to wait. So that's what comes out of title searches and the permits and lien searches that we do.
But I'd rather spend a little bit up front than spend a lot more in the back end, right, Scott?
Yeah, exactly.
And be able to sleep at night and make sure that, everything's where it's supposed to be.
Right. Y'all can sleep. I don't very much, but yeah, y'all.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up this session of Coffee with the Broker. Remember, tomorrow's contract training. Friday, we're going to have a branch lunch in Orlando. Take that, Freddie. And yeah.
Hey, so where's this week's branch lunch?
I don't know. Haven't figured it out yet. It'll be at some place with food.
All right. Let me know. I might show up.
Me too. I might.
I'm just kidding. Shane's coming. Come out there. Where's Sean? Sean's on mute. Anyway, thanks guys. I gotta go. I gotta run. I gotta go do some broker stuff.
Broker
Thanks,
stuff.
everybody.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. You're welcome. Call me. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a great day.